Hello ladies, welcome back to my channel. In case you're new here, my name is Simone and I talk all things femininity. And in this series, I'm going to be focusing on the menstrual cycle. So this video is about the early to mid luteal phase. And I decided to split the luteal phase into two separate videos because I think there's a bit of a difference that goes on from your hormones during this phase and then during the later luteal phase. So that's why I'm making it more simple for you all. So you guys already know how I operate. I'm going to divide this into 6 sections. We're going to do a quick overview of this phase, the hormones that are going on in your body and how they affect your body, because there's a lot there. And then we're going to dive into how that affects you on an emotional and mental level, and how you can tune into this phase with nutrition, exercise, and your emotions, and the proper ways to care for yourself, because that's what cycle syncing is all about. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The early to mid luteal phase occurs right after ovulation, and it typically lasts around 1 week. So this will be around days 15 to 21. And then after that, you have your late luteal phase, which is the week before your period. So the mental focuses, the physical focuses I'm going to give you are very important, because I think a lot of women do not listen to what their body is telling them during this phase because of the type of hustle culture that we live in today. So the physical focuses I want you to take on are relaxing, nourishing your body, hydrating your body a lot, and supporting mood and hormonal balance. I'm also going to add in some things that you should avoid during this phase because you are more sensitive. So physically, you should avoid salty food, alcohol, caffeine, because I find all of these things worsen my symptoms that I have during my luteal phase and can make me more irritable. So try to avoid or at least lessen your intake of these things. Alrighty, now we're getting into hormones. Like I said, there is a lot that goes on here, so stick with me. There's a lot. This took me a really long time to understand too. So I'm going to try to break it down very simple for you guys. Starting off with the hormones that rise, there is progesterone. And progesterone steadily increases from ovulation up until around day 21, where it has a peak, and then it drops again. I'm going to include a graph in this video because I want you guys to be able to see what I'm talking about. So like I said, the progesterone steadily increases from ovulation until around day 21, as you can see, and then it drops again. Now, the dropping hormones are estrogen, FSH, and LH. Estrogen is kind of tricky because it drops after ovulation, but then it increases again slightly during the luteal phase. And it increases up until around day 21, day 22, just like progesterone, and then it drops. So maybe this is why we feel so unstable. Probably is because of how our hormones are fluctuating so much. And FSH and LH both experience a pretty significant decline after ovulation. So those are the yellow and green colors, and you can see on the graph that they increase around ovulation, around day 15, and then they start to drop significantly. And they kind of remain at that low level throughout your early luteal phase up until the late luteal phase and up until your menstrual phase, honestly. So yeah, that helps explain why we feel this way. Now I'm going to go over the effects that these hormones have on your body. So as I said, progesterone is increasing, and because of that, the uterine lining is thickening and preparing for a potential pregnancy. Now, this rise in progesterone is one of the main factors that can contribute to a lot of women feeling unlike themselves. And this is because progesterone can either have a really calming and relaxing effect on you, or it might have the opposite, where you feel very anxious, moody, and irritable. So there is this thing called progesterone intolerance, which I think is very interesting because certain women are more sensitive to progesterone production, and because of that, they might feel more irritable when the progesterone is rising. So that is during the luteal phase, and might exhibit symptoms of PMDD, like really severe depression and anxiety. But then there are women that aren't as sensitive to progesterone that might just feel more relaxed and calm with the production of progesterone. The other thing is, you might not be that sensitive to progesterone and still experience feelings of irritability if you are not listening to your body and your body telling you to relax. Because like I said, a lot of us are in a hustle culture and on a go, go, go mindset. So we don't think about giving ourselves time to relax, about listening to our body when it tells us to rest. And you might just be perceiving that need for rest as fatigue, when really you should just be listening to your body, whatever it tells you, and resting. So maybe consider doing this practice of cycle syncing, which is listening to your body and giving it what it needs. And if that doesn't help you, then I would definitely suggest getting your blood work done to see what your progesterone levels are, because sometimes low progesterone can cause irregular periods or really heavy bleeding. So if you suspect that you have some type of irregularity with your progesterone production, then I would suggest getting your blood work done and taking it from there. An increase in progesterone generally is the cause of breast tenderness and fatigue. Again, like I said, it might just be your body communicating that you need to rest, bloating and mood changes, and sleeping issues. I, for one, experienced sleeping issues during my late luteal phase. It's so hard to fall asleep for me. I don't know what it is. That is all about progesterone. Now let's get to the dropping hormones, which is estrogen, FSH, and LH. The reason that FSH declines is because there is no longer a need for fertilization after your ovulatory phase within that same cycle. So it is going to drop because it is telling your body that it's trying to prepare for a potential pregnancy. And if no pregnancy occurs, then the FSH will rise again during the menstrual cycle. And LH is dropping because its main purpose is to trigger the release of an egg. And once that purpose is fulfilled after ovulation, it drops. So that was all about the hormones. Now let's get into the emotional and mental effects these hormones have on you. Alrighty, like I said with progesterone, some women have a lower tolerance to it. So that means that you might be a little bit more sensitive to the fluctuations of your progesterone. If you are on this side of progesterone intolerance, you might also feel unstable. You might have more difficulty regulating your emotions. You might experience more anxiety, depression, and a bunch of other unpleasant feelings. And that is just because you are more sensitive to progesterone fluctuations. But if you're on the other side of progesterone, where you do not feel those effects that much, progesterone has a calming effect on you. So this is why a lot of women might feel fatigued when it's really just your body telling you to rest and slow down. And I, for one, during my luteal phase, I would never rest. I would never relax, and that triggered so many unpleasant emotions that came out. And it wasn't only emotions, but it was bodily sensations where I would feel bloated constantly. I would not be able to sleep adequately, and it was because I wasn't resting throughout the day, and I would experience burnout because of that. And it was because I was not listening to my body, not listening to my brain when it was telling me to take a break. And progesterone is a relaxing hormone because it is preparing you for a potential pregnancy. So obviously, if you are getting ready for a pregnancy, you have to take care of yourself, and that is your body telling you that you need to relax. And you need to just lean into this relaxation rather than resist it. Now we are going to get into the cycle syncing bit of this video. And I think especially if you do experience those uncomfortable sensations with your progesterone fluctuations, or you suspect that you might have a progesterone intolerance, then I do recommend cycle syncing with food, because there's so many minerals in food that can actually help support your hormones. And I don't know how far they go with progesterone, but I know that they can help your serotonin levels, neurotransmitters, and it's just crazy how food can literally heal you sometimes. And if you are consistent with it enough, it will have a lasting effect, and you will know what foods are right for you, what foods to eat when you're feeling drained, what foods to eat when you feel cramping, foods to eat when you feel meh. It can tell you everything as long as you're consistent, as long as you pay attention to how your body feels before and after you eat something. So now we are on the nutrition section. This is my favorite section of all time. There's a lot in here though. I knew this luteal phase video was gonna be so long. Just like the luteal phase itself. Okay, so with your nutrition during this phase, you want to focus on nourishing your body and stabilizing your moods, which can be done through food. So first off, we are going to start off with the stabilizers, with the mood stabilizers, which are magnesium and potassium. And I think I mentioned this either in the menstrual phase or the follicular phase video, but these are both great minerals to intake that are mood stabilizing. So magnesium-rich foods are dark chocolate, almonds, pumpkin seeds, spinach and kale, and some potassium-rich foods are bananas, salmon, potatoes, and those foods are also rich in vitamin B6, which can also help with mood swings and also plays a significant role in serotonin production, which is our happy hormone. So make sure you are getting an adequate intake of both of those, because magnesium can also help with sleep, which a lot of women I know struggle with during the luteal phase. And of course, we want to incorporate our complex carbs because these help stabilize our blood sugar levels. So these are foods like quinoa, your oats, brown rice, sweet potatoes. Those are all excellent sources of complex carbohydrates. All right, this is my favorite nutrient. It is your fatty foods. I love having fatty foods during this phase because they are so nourishing and they just make me feel so, it's like a hug when I eat these foods. But these help also with reducing inflammation. So I know a lot of women experience bloating during this phase, which is why you should avoid salty foods and alcohol. But another way to combat that type of bloating is by having fatty foods. So this can be avocado, fatty fish, and olive oil. My favorite meal to make, or not meal, but I would say snack, is avocado toast with olive oil drizzled on top and lemon and maybe even some mushrooms in there. And it is just chef's kiss. It tastes so good and it is so fulfilling in my body. Of course, you want to be having a sufficient amount of protein in your diet. This goes for any phase, but during this phase, it helps maintain a feeling of fullness, and I know a lot of women feel very hungry during this phase. And sometimes I see women making videos on TikTok of what they eat in a day during their luteal phase because they're so hungry, and I see a lot of fast food, a lot of snacking, when really you could be just having like 3 to 4 meals a day that are very rich in protein and complex carbs that will make you feel satisfied so that you're not constantly snacking. So you have your beans, chicken, tofu, fatty fish, and chickpeas. So that wraps up our nutrition section. Now let's get into exercise. So let's think about what our hormones are doing, because you know that your hormones are going through a lot of fluctuations during this phase. And because of that, you don't want to push yourself too hard, and you don't want to exercise your body beyond the point that it can, like you would in your ovulatory or your follicular phase. Because most of the time your body will not budge and it will scream at you to stop. So like I said, it's just very important to listen to those cues that your body gives you when you're working out, and maybe you feel way too, like you feel stress and you feel anxiety and you feel your muscles way too much and it feels uncomfortable to continue, but you have that mindset of no, we're gonna keep on going. Maybe try to transition that mindset into, okay, my body needs rest, so let's just hit up some stretching and we'll go home. I would say the best type of exercise to do during this phase is anything that's moderate to low intensity. And this can literally be anything. You can still do cardio and have it be moderate to low intensity. And that might look like walking or doing walking on an incline. And you can still align your fitness goals with your cycle. And cycle syncing is an amazing way to reach your fitness goals and maybe to lose weight if you'd like to. And I will also make a video on that, because that is what got me into cycle syncing and just brought me here talking to you all. So I'm going to make a video on how to reach your fitness goals with cycle syncing. But back to exercises you can do. Yoga is a great form because not only is it beneficial for your physical health and stretching, but it also just has a calming effect on your mind. That is if you are taking traditional yoga. I know a lot of yoga today is very fast-paced and heated and a lot more intense than I think it should be, because sometimes it feels more like a HIIT workout when I'm doing yoga and I'm like, what is this? But if you're taking a traditional yoga class that is slower paced and really teaches you to tune into yourself and has you meditate maybe, those are great classes to take during this phase. And I think meditation is an awesome practice for calming down any sort of stress that you might have in your body because of this phase. Just like I said with walking and how you can incorporate that type of cardio into your workout during this phase, you can also incorporate weightlifting into this phase by maybe doing less reps or lighter weights. So the choice is yours. Whatever your fitness goals are, whatever your physique goals are, you can accomplish them with your cycle. Finally, we are going to be talking about how to care for yourself emotionally during this phase. This phase needs a lot of care, and I think it would benefit a lot of women to listen to this and take it into consideration, because we do not care for ourselves enough as women, especially during this phase. So, like I said, we do live in a hustle culture, at least in the United States, and because of that, we might not be honoring our body's boundaries and our brain's boundaries when they cannot give anymore and they experience a burnout, and we just keep on trying to push. When really you should listen to those signals that your body gives you. Maybe it's your eyes feeling so tired. That is a sign that maybe you need to stop working on your laptop. I know I used to experience that a lot and would just keep on going until I would experience physical pain in my eyes. It wasn't even just a straining sensation, it was literal physical pain. So listen to your body when it is talking to you, or else it will scream at you and create problems that might even last for a day or two. So I would say the first thing to do to care for yourself emotionally during this phase is to honor your boundaries, because your body, your emotions are a lot more sensitive during this phase because of the hormonal fluctuations that it's undergoing. So whether it is extending yourself socially and you feel a certain type of way in that interaction and you just want, maybe it makes you angry, and maybe that is a sign that you should not feed into that anger and that you should tell the person, I'm not feeling so good right now. Can we continue this conversation when I'm feeling more up for it? And you can say no to hanging out with people if you don't feel like going. That's completely fine. These are how you honor your boundaries and whatever feels right to you. Some women like to be social butterflies throughout the entirety of their cycle. I don't know how, but some women do it, and if that's right for you, then keep on doing that. The next thing you can do to take care of yourself emotionally is shadow work. Now, some women might not want to do this, again, because if you are more sensitive during this phase, it might not be the best idea. But for me, I love doing shadow work during my luteal phase because it is when that voice in my head is more clear. And it's that voice that is negative, that has a negative outlook on life, that has a negative outlook on myself. And I don't look at it as having more power over me. I look at it as something to learn about myself and maybe what traumas I still have to revisit in order to heal from them some more, and also what type of negative beliefs that I have that need reconstruction. Because the great thing about your luteal phase is that it kind of is when those raw parts of yourself come out, when you don't want to take anyone else's BS. So this is a great time to come into contact with that version of yourself rather than resist it and try to people please, try to pretend to be good, I guess, when really you feel like a villain. So just play into that shadow. Don't be afraid of it. Don't feel repulsed by it. Don't feel ashamed by it. Lean into it and just lead with curiosity. Do not lead with judgment. And this will tell you a lot about yourself and will help you grow in the following phases. Another thing to care for yourself emotionally during this phase is your work. And I know I said that it is important to honor your boundaries with work and your energy that you put into it, but like I said with exercise, you can still work. You can still complete work, but at a different intensity level. So in this phase where you might feel a little bit more drained, you might want to do some type of work that is less demanding of your energy, where maybe it is just doing detail work and you feel good about doing that, or just wrapping projects up rather than starting new ones. This is just a great time to hone in on completing things. And our brains are actually, I think I read somewhere that your brains are wired during the luteal phase to be more detail oriented, which is why, I mean, we might get a little bit more upset with certain ways that people operate, but whatever, that's beyond the point. Meditation is a great way to care for yourself emotionally. And this teaches you resilience. It teaches you also emotional regulation. So if you struggle with emotional regulation, I highly recommend meditation, not just during your luteal phase, but during the other phases too, so that you build up a support system, because meditation kind of is like a support system for when things might get rough, your emotions might be all over the place. It's a nice grounding exercise to take part in. Another practice is to create a stress toolkit. Our stress levels might be higher during this phase, and because of that, it's important to prepare for that stress when maybe you do slip up and you do cross your own boundaries. How are you going to manage that feeling of stress? How are you going to come back to yourself, to your baseline state of peace and calm, and maybe just a state of normal, rather than feeling so stressed out, so irritable, so angry? How will you manage those emotions rather than shouting, rather than lashing out or shutting down? Create a toolkit that can help you bring you back to yourself and escape the outside stressors that are bothering you. So some things in my stress toolkit are meditation, belly breathing, alternate nostril breathing, and also I have this really cute practice I do that I love, and it is when I envision my younger self. And her name was Moni, so I call her Moni. And I just envision my younger self in whatever state it is I'm experiencing. So if I feel angry, I will envision my younger self as angry, and my current self as calm and being there to support her. And I will give her whatever she needs. I will hug her. I will talk to her. Like literally, I'll talk out loud to myself, closing my eyes. And it's such a beautiful practice because I think it has healed my inner child. So just incorporating some practices like that can bring you out of those really intense states of emotion is a great thing to cultivate during this time. I also really suggest having a clean space. I think this is important in general, but especially during your luteal phase where you might feel a bit more disorganized and unlike yourself, having a clean space to come home to for me is so relaxing. Like if I'm just stressed out outside at work or with my family or whatever, when I come back home to a clean room that like has a lit candle, it has flowers in it, it just makes me feel so loved and it makes me feel so happy. And maybe even just adding a couple things like flowers or candles, or maybe you have incense in your room, that makes your room feel more beautiful and more like you. Finally, you are allowed to treat yourself, and you should treat yourself during this phase because you are going through so much. You're going through so much, like your hormones are all over the place. You deserve a treat. Whatever that treat looks like to you, whether it's a spa day or maybe you go on like a 3-day vacation somewhere just solo. Maybe you get yourself a sweet treat or you go on a shopping trip. Whatever taking care of yourself, whatever treating yourself looks like to you, do it because you deserve that treatment for what you're going through, for what your body is going through, and for being able to manage it and for taking part in cycle syncing and really just learning about your body and honoring it. You deserve a treat for that. Alrighty, that was all I have for you on this video. I know it was a bit longer. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope that you all gained something from this video. Take care of your bodies, take care of your mind, and have a lovely day. I will see you all next week.